You're listening to ViewSource, a conversation around tech, web development, and WordPress with hosts Aurooba Ahmed, that's me, and Brian Quartz. Season finale! How does it feel to get to the end of season 1, Brian?
I know. I'm glad we didn't kill off any main characters or do any terrible Lost style reveals that this was all a dream. Just a good classic season arc.
But we may have a cliffhanger. So there may be one of those, right?
I guess so. I don't know. Is there?
I guess so.
Surprise for me. Okay.
All right. So today we are recording. This is the last episode of this season before we go on a break. And we're doing a little bit something different today. What we're going to do is something inspired by David Bissett and his draft episodes that he does sometimes in the WordPress community, which I've been a part of twice and I really love them. And basically,
I think his invite didn't make it into my inbox, I guess. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's in an unread DM, I guess. I don't know, David.
Check those spam filters. My goodness.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
So basically how it goes is we have 3 topics, and for each of those 3 topics, we both knew them ahead of time, and we have to come up with our favorite answer to that topic. However, if let's say you, Brian, choose an answer, I cannot give the same answer. So you have to have backups ready. Now it's just the 2 of us, so I think that we both just have one backup each and it should be okay, but I guess we'll find out. So although we said in one of our reflection episodes that we don't want to do surprises anymore, there's definitely surprises in this episode.
Yeah, that's true. I think you'll probably guess my answers, I bet. We should have done the one where you ask a question and then I guess what your answer is going to be and we see how well we know each other. Nope, I'm ready.
Okay. I mean, that would be cool, but I honestly don't know. We'll see. Let's find out.
It'd be like, how does Brian feel about dark mode? And then you'd have to answer. Just kidding.
Oh, that's an easy one. I think the whole internet can answer that one now.
Yeah. How does Aurooba feel about the documentation of the Gutenberg project in WordPress? It's a mystery.
Such a mystery. My goodness. All right. So our very first question, and Brian, you're going to go first because I'm asking the question.
Okay.
Is what is your favorite WordPress conversation or tidbit from the last season? This season, I guess.
So my absolute favorite, I guess it's a conversation. It's really like a whole episode. Well, really, it's a whole 2-episode arc. But it's really one episode where from very early on, where we did the Gutenberg block 3 different ways. It was like the same block, 3 different versions of it, because I think it was the most I think the first time we hit it of here's a way that we explained a thing that I learned from it, people learned from it. It was a mental cloud was cleared.
Sniped on the first question. Oh my goodness. That was mine too.
Really?
Yes, that was definitely one of my all-time favorite conversations, but I can't pick that one now. But you're right. I think that it was a shift, right? It was like a defining moment for us in the podcast because once we did that, we were like, oh, that was kind of cool. Maybe we should do more things like that. We'd never done something quite like that before.
Yeah, just breaking apart code, showing different ways it could be done, talking through the thought process. But mostly because I feel like I learned a lot from it. That's half of the reason I picked it.
I think the reason I really liked it is because it felt so real in the sense that you could see 2 people figuring something out together and talking through it. And that's a really big part of regular tech dev work life, but you don't get to often see it with other people, unless you're also involved. So I don't know. I thought that was just really, really cool. And it felt authentic and transparent in the best way. But now I can't pick that one.
Yeah. I forgot. What's your real answer now?
Okay. So now my answer, and maybe it could be considered a cop-out or not.
Answer.
Okay. Well, we'll find out. Honestly, I got a huge kick out of our theme tangent from the last episode. In the wish list for modern WordPress, we had that conversation around default themes and what we liked and didn't like about it, and then had that moment. Like, I liked it enough that I went into the script and I cut that piece out to share on social media because I thought it was so hilarious and so just fun to talk about and reflect on the bird theme and the other default themes
Mhm.
that we like. I don't know, it always makes me smile. So that was my second one. What about you?
Yeah, that was a good that was a good one. You want my second one?
Yeah, what
You
was it?
curious? My
Mhm.
second favorite conversation was the one where I had to explain what Bootstrap was to you, and, like, we went through it, and you were, like, asking all these things about, like, "Yeah, but I want a design framework that does this, this, and this," and it was like, "Yeah, actually, like, Bootstrap does all those things," and it was just it was fun because it's like, I don't think there should be, like, a Bootstrap in WordPress, but, like, WordPress is so opinionated these days about your design framework, and it has a lot of room to grow to be a good design framework, so
Mhm.
it was kinda fun to, like, talk about kind of the OG great design framework, and modern WordPress. And I felt like
Yeah.
you, it was fun showing you how Bootstrap works.
I think I definitely learned a lot in that conversation, and it also made me realize just how WordPress focused my worldview was around Bootstrap, because I had never experienced Bootstrap outside of the WordPress world, and within the WordPress world, I found it excruciatingly difficult to work with. Always, even before modern WordPress stuff, I just never thought it was like very great within WordPress. But when you walked me through all of it, I saw how if you weren't inside another kind of a framework, wannabe framework, or a beginner framework, which WordPress in some ways always been, because it always has classes and all kinds of things. Um, I It clicked for me how that could be really great and how it could be really advantageous. And like we talked about in that episode, there are lots of smart things inside Bootstrap, and I really do appreciate some of them, especially at the JavaScript part, which I really like enjoy in Bootstrap, actually, how
Mhm.
they do that stuff. But yeah, you really showed me a lot there, and I appreciated being called out for my bias and maybe some prejudice around Bootstrap.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I just think it's fun to see how, like, a lot of the problems WordPress is trying to solve right now have been solved in the past. And it's like WordPress is kind of going slow and trying different things and experimenting. And they can't just like use the solutions that worked 10 years ago. They do have to kind of think ahead. And even Bootstrap is like constantly trying to change and like keep its classic grid, 12 column grid stuff, but embrace modern stuff. So it's kind of fun just to dig into all of that because it really affects how you
Yeah.
build, how you think, how you design, all of that stuff.
Oh, definitely. Just the way I think about how WordPress is going now, it's not about taking it's a lot easier if you start with the framework in mind when you're creating these kinds of things, because it has all these opinions that you have to work with and to some extent cannot even strip out, or it's doesn't make sense to strip out. It's not like sustainable to do so. So,
We should link in the show notes to, I don't know if you saw the recent post by our pal MRW about his events calendar skin. And it
yes.
was really interesting because he was basically showing how like a very popular plugin is so opinionated in design and it just doesn't like, why isn't it like using your theme JSON values? And why isn't it like,
Mhm.
for such a popular plugin? And he had kind of written a little code to deal with that and bring in like your padding scale and all this sort of stuff. And it's the kind of thing that you're like, we're all hoping that plugins, I know we use Gravity Form sometimes, you're like, hey, can you guys start bringing this stuff in? It's right there. There's a big JSON file with all these opinions, like,
Yeah,
start bringing it in. So I think it will
100%.
be the future, it's just taking time, but we
It
should link to
is,
that
and
post because it's a good one.
totally, yeah, we'll definitely drop that in the show notes here. Um, Mark comes up with really awesome stuff. When Mark drops a post, it's worth reading. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
often, but when it does, oh yeah, you wanna read that.
He was like, they should use design tokens, as I've kind of hinted at. It's like the guy who wrote
Yeah,
like the like definitive like
yeah,
catalyst for like introducing design tokens. Yeah.
definitely. Alright, so that was our first question. Good answers, I got sniped, for sure. Second one, what is your favorite side effect from doing season 1? I'll go first. I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. Okay, okay.
Okay.
I think my favorite side effect from doing season 1 is the mini course that I did. I don't think that I could have done it a 24-hour sprint when I plan, create, and launch a little course. I don't think I could have done it if we hadn't been doing these weekly recordings where, yes, we plan, but we also have like a lot of in the moment things and having to pivot. And it's almost like being in this masterclass of thinking on your feet and figuring things out and making sure it all makes sense together as you're doing it. And I feel like with this season, I got so much practice that it made something like the mini course sprint possible. So that is my favorite side effect. I don't think I'm gonna
I,
get sniped on this.
it's mine is so close. So
Okay.
mine is similar, which is that since we started this, I finally like dusted off the like YouTube account and started doing tutorial videos on it. And it's like a thing, like teaching people things is like a thing I've done in like day job work constantly. So it's very natural to do that and to
Yeah.
teach and to record things and stuff. But I'd have
Yeah.
maybe some insecurity about like doing it more publicly or sitting down and like actually committing to like recording and looking in a camera and like making like little poses and all that stuff. But after this, it was like we like ripped the band-aid off of it. So mine was similar. It was a mini course, but it was like you said, like the skills, like we went through like the college level course of like how to quickly make video content and how
Hmm.
to edit and how to present it and all that stuff. And it was like definitely so much easier to get myself over the hump of starting it. And now it's been going and it's fun and I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
It's,
So
is that a
I
snipe?
think it's a
Did I have not?
snipe. It's a snipe.
Yeah.
It's like essentially we both are saying the same thing, that it
Yeah.
helped us do the content creation that we always wanted to do and helped us learn how to do it better and faster and on our feet. So I think you're gonna
But
have to tell me your second one.
my second one's a little cheesy. You sure you want it?
Yeah.
I
Now I
mean,
do,
it,
especially.
yeah. It's my second one. The best side effect of this has definitely been like conversations with people in WordPress. Since we
That's not
started,
cheesy.
it's like it's like sentimental enough to where it makes me uncomfortable. Like, oh, the nice conversations and the heartfelt relationships we've made along the way.
Hmm.
It's like I mean it, but like it's hard for me to be that sentimental. But it's true.
That's
It's
fair.
it's been super fun getting feedback, getting conversations started, hearing people say things about the topics that we've talked about,
Yeah.
and, and people I'd never talked to before. So that would be my second one. Was
Okay.
it close to your
I
second
like
one?
that one. No. No. My second one is something we can't talk about yet. It's the cliffhanger we'll have near the end. But I don't know if that thing that we're doing might have happened if the podcast hadn't been a thing. The podcast
Yeah,
came first, you know? So, yeah.
yeah. We had the
Yeah.
WP helpers sprint
Mhm.
of work that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's so many things we can't really talk about, but
Yet.
they're
Yet.
they're there and they're cool and they will be released at one point in time.
Okay. And the third question that we have here, and so you have to go first for this one now, is what is the coolest thing you learned during season 1? And this doesn't have to be something that we covered on the podcast. It's just during this time period of nearly 6 months that we've done ViewSource season 1, what is something cool that you learned that sticks out to you?
So that one was a very easy one, which is that
Okay.
before we had started the podcast, I had used frameworks like Laravel and JavaScript stuff like Vue had been like the one that I'd mostly spent the most time with, and actually
Yeah.
Angular in some weird ways. But I'd
Uh-huh.
never touched React. Like I touched it a little bit and like I understood it, like the concept of it, but I just never picked it as a tool for a project. And luckily I'd never been thrown into a project that was using it. So I had gone
Right.
all the way up until 2023, never really touching React except for like, 3 lessons of a West Boss course. So the last 6 months, I've definitely spent a lot of time in React, WordPress and otherwise. And that's
Mm-hmm.
been my favorite thing to learn just because it's such a huge ecosystem and community, and there's a ton of just stuff, and it's a completely different and cool way to think about how you develop and how you code.
Yeah.
So it's been a big fun experience, kind of like going from hating JSX to kind of enjoying React.
Yeah, I think that we even said that in the one of the earlier episodes. You had a mini rant about how you didn't like how JSX looked and worked, and
There's
now you live in it.
there's in our list of all of our episode
Yeah.
ideas, there's like an episode idea that's like Brian thinks React is ugly, and I don't know
Yes.
how we thought we'd make an entire episode out of that. Like that's the entire episode is just me explaining why JSX is ugly. I've gotten used to it, but it's you know, I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I still like the view style, like
The
HTML,
declarative
throw some
version.
JavaScript in it, yeah, instead of like JavaScript and then like stick your HTML in it. But I'm used to it now.
Mm,
I'm used to it.
that's fair. I think I personally go back and forth on it. Like, I learned JSX very early on, so it just made sense to me, I guess. I don't know. My brain just works that way, perhaps. But after being exposed to other ways that other people do JavaScript and Vue and everything, I definitely see pros and cons for both. And there are times where I'm thinking, oh, this would have been so much simpler to express, not in JSX, for example. So that does sometimes happen to me too. So I get that. But I'm also really excited that you have gotten to spend so much time in React, and I've gotten to spend so much time in React too. And it's a fun, interesting new. It's not new, but it's newish for me still, in the sense that it's in the last like few years, and doing it in the context of WordPress or outside of it has just been. It's so much fun to learn new things. Sometimes it sucks, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's so much fun, right?
Yeah, I think there's like a side, especially in the WordPress community, of there's like a mindset that's like, please don't change anything ever and let me just do things the same way over and over. And I get it. Like if
Yeah,
your job isn't to be a developer, your job is to just deliver sites to clients, then I get that mindset. But when you go back into like developer mode and you realize like, oh, I just want to learn something new, try something new. It's fun to have
hmm,
all of this stuff. And then you hit a point where you're like, I kind of don't care if it's Vue or React or whatever. Like maybe at the higher level, there's a place where you care. And maybe when you're a very beginner, there's a place where you care. But there's this
yeah,
huge space in the middle where it's like, it's all just fun and the same. And, it's cool to just do different things different ways. And why
yeah,
not? Who cares if it's
yeah.
ugly? It's just fun.
That was my second answer, so I didn't get
Okay.
sniped,
Okay.
but it's in the maybe similar vein. So I don't think until this year I realized that I have maybe a core value in how I develop that perhaps others don't have. And that is, I always want to understand my build tools. I don't like to
Mm.
work with build tools that I do not understand. So if I'm going to take on a new build tool, I will work to understand it, because we all, as developers, know the pain of trying to debug your build tools. And if you don't understand them, it makes it that much harder to debug. And I didn't realize that not everyone does that or thinks about it like that. And that lots of people will just use it, and then they have all these struggles. Brian just kind of minorly raised his hand. I didn't know that. So, one of the things that happened in this season is I found myself actually working with Webpack a lot, which meant that I wanted to understand Webpack. And before that, I didn't really, because I had some tooling that I understood the tooling, which was using Webpack under the hood, but I understood that tool, but not necessarily Webpack itself. But now I was working directly with Webpack. So then it became really important for me to understand Webpack. And so, in some way or shape or form, for the last many months, I have spent a lot of time in the Webpack docs, in the Webpack source code, and I feel like there's so much I know about Webpack and still more to learn, that I have a deep appreciation for basically all tooling. And I'm fascinated by the world of development tooling creation. And that was never a side of development that I had any particular interest in. Appreciation, yes, but maybe not interest in wanting to create or wanting to understand how to create. But now, whenever I'm in like terminal, I'm like, oh, okay, I wonder how they did that in this command line tool. I want to know how they did that, or how did they, what was the process for making this thing happen or this thing appear, or were they like, can you combine maybe composer and npm, or these are things and conversations in my head, I guess, and ideas that I never had before. And that was something that has happened in the last 6 months that is new for me.
Yeah, I've been watching that process happen, so I'm very aware of it. And
Yeah.
I'm also like, I think I know how gulp works now that we're like 5 years after the gulp era. And I'm not a build process person. To me, it's like I know how my car gets me like to the grocery store, but like I don't
Yeah.
know like literally how it does it. I think there's like fire and some sort of explosions and like pistons that move. I think that's what's happening.
Uh-huh.
I know that it's a minivan, and that's all I picked it because of that, but I don't understand what works under the hood. That's how I feel about build
Yeah.
tools. Like I could not tell you what Webpack is actually doing and why it's different from Gulp, other than I just know what it's like to use it. And
Right.
so I do think it's kind of cool that you're like digging into that side of it, because that's like a it's
It's a different world, honestly.
oh yeah, I don't know. I think also like you learn these things when it's the time for you to learn them. Like I'm a big fan of that sort of like just in time learning
Agreed.
style of like
Hmm.
you'll learn it when you get there and you need to
We should
learn it.
drop that blog post in the show notes
Oh,
because
the
you have one on it,
oh
on
yeah,
just
yeah,
in
yeah.
time learning. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and that's like the concept of like traditional schooling is like just in case. We learn everything just in case one day you're asked, who was like the 42nd president or whatever. I don't know. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's this other thing that's like just in time learning, which is like you learn things as they become important to you, and then you're way more
Hmm.
motivated to learn them, and you're way more curious because you didn't, you, instead of thinking that learning is like this chore of memorization and stuff, it's actually this very practical process of learning skills and knowledge when it's important to you. And I think
Hmm.
that's where you're at with the Webpack stuff. Um,
Yes,
and I'm,
definitely.
I'm glad it's you.
I think, I mean, this is also another thing that we can't quite yet talk about, but it all began last year. Last year in February, I had a wild idea related to some build tooling stuff, and I wanted to create it. I didn't have time, and then you and I started a thing, and then I finally had time in this project that we started to make that come to life, and that was the beginning. Once I did that, I had to dig in more into Webpack and more tooling, and it's fascinating. I don't know if I would pick that as my like thing, but it has become one of my things, and it is interesting. But it is still, I'm still a beginner in it, maybe in a lot of ways. Not maybe, I am, and so I definitely have those phases of why isn't this working and this doesn't make sense, and it also helps me appreciate how hard it can be to be a beginner sometimes, especially when you're doing your hardest and to get over that hump and get past the place where you don't understand what you don't know and can figure out what you don't know and then do something about it, you know?
Yeah, and what you're also dealing with is not just like I need a build process to get my stuff built, but it's like I need a build process that like in some ways doesn't exist anymore. So you kind of have to go deeper
Yeah.
and deeper, or a build process that does a thing really well that no one's ever wanted it to do or cared about before. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're just gonna have to do it. You
I
just have to
know, I
learn it.
know. It's definitely hard. It's hard, but it's also fun. It's hard and good, and hard is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I want to say that when I say hard, I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way. It's one of those things that definitely is challenging me, and it's stretching my ways of thinking, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I got sniped. You kind of definitely got sniped. Like the content creation thing, that was
Oh
definitely
yeah,
the
yeah,
same
yeah.
thing
I
for
thought
the
you were talking
second
about this
question.
one. No, no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, yeah. So we both got sniped once. I am not surprised, you know? I think it's probably a good thing that we have some favorites that we share.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, there was just content things that we went over this year that made a big impression.
yeah.
Um, I think that leads us to the conversation of season 2, which I think just in the natural course of life, there will be some things that we're still very heavily focused on, like WordPress, for example, but there might be other
Mhm.
things that we're just at a different place and what we're
Yeah.
learning. So it might be a different season. What do you think? What are you predicting for season 2?
I think you're right that there will always be an element of WordPress. We both contribute, we both talk about it and work in it a lot. But yeah, I would like to say that season 2 will have maybe more WordPress adjacent conversations as well. Not necessarily WordPress, but like things that s- might help you in your WordPress journey or are close to the WordPress world, but aren't necessarily WordPress itself. You know, there's just there's something I was thinking about just yesterday. I published a tutorial that had to do with CSS, and I was thinking about how you use CSS all the time when you're doing front end development in WordPress, and that often needs its own conversations, you know? And we've had some. But yeah, I think that it would be nice if season 2 had more WordPress adjacent stuff as well and not just so heavily on the WordPress C stuff.
Yeah, I think I go back and forth too because I th- I think WordPress is turning a corner, not just because it's like phase 2 to phase 3, but it's also
Mm,
like that weird valley of just quiet around developer tooling and developer experience and stuff. Like the last few years, it was like, I mean, CSS Tricks, Chris Coyer wrote a post about it, right? Or no,
yeah,
I think it was the other Jeff, I think, wrote the post, maybe. About
maybe.
the we'll find it. We'll put it in the show notes. The one about like
Yeah.
where is all the WordPress tutorial content and where
Yes.
what is happening. And I think we're starting to see that shift again, and we're starting to see, okay, we're starting to see site editing exists. This is how it is. I think people have what I see is a lot of people coming to terms with like there's a really good use case for it, and there's not use cases for it, or like use cases where you don't want
Mhm.
site editing, and we're starting to see like that divide kind of grow. And now
Yeah.
people are coming up and saying, like Bill Erickson just released his theme framework, which is awesome because anytime he releases something, like check it out, obviously. So
Yeah.
we're seeing all those things kind of start to come out, I think. So I think that
Yeah.
there will be plenty WordPress to talk about with all of that stuff. I think there will
Yes.
also be, like you said, you know, other things that we all need to kind of dig into and understand. Like we should definitely do a Webpack. You can explain Webpack
Yes.
to me like I'm a 5-year-old because I need that.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think that we're on the same page. And we've touched on this before, but, when will season 2 happen?
Season 2, we're kind of following like kind of like school calendar, I think, like the classic school
Yeah?
calendar. So in the fall, like summer break, take it off, come back in the fall, and potentially do a season 2 that I think would be like fall to spring, and then we'll take another summer off. Um,
Right.
that's kind of the goal. So
Mhm.
uh, I'm not going to give us an exact date, but
Yeah.
definitely in the fall after post WordCamp US for sure.
Yes. Which brings us to the last question is, what are your plans for the season break, Brian?
I mean, I don't know. I want to put a lot of like one of the things you and I both were just talking about is like the time we put into other video content. So I know both of us have like kind of a list of like things we want to get through. So not recording
Yes.
and editing this will be kind of helpful to put in time towards that. That's one of my
Yeah.
big places I want to put in some time. What about you?
Well, I have this course that I committed to releasing and semi announced last year and still have not released. And it's called React in WordPress. And I'm committing to getting that released during this season break. It's happening. I've told the world
Yeah.
now, way too publicly. It's happening.
I like actually there's a few topics that are in that course that I like actually just want to see because nobody's done content on it yet. So I'm I'm actually just like waiting for that.
Yeah, you bug me about it a lot, which I really appreciate. I really
Yeah.
do appreciate being bugged about it because I need it, clearly.
Yeah. Well, definitely been doing a lot. that's one of the things. We both have video content. We'll both
Yep.
take vacations, right? I mean, a little summer
Yes, I'm gonna go
vacation.
camping, and go to travel a few different places, get a little sun. Yeah, you have some vacation planned?
Yeah, see, I made the mistake of having 5 kids that are all under the age of 10. And what you learn with 5 kids, including like the youngest one's going to turn 1 this month, is
Mhm.
nobody wants to watch your damn kids when you have so many kids. So we were maybe we're going to see if we can get a little anniversary trip with just my wife, or we'll just take the kids. Or we live in Southern California, so the beach is 15 minutes away if we just want to go to the beach every day. So we'll
That's
see.
true.
I don't know if there will
Mhm.
be any travel though, except for some travel in August, right?
Yes, we're definitely gonna be at WordCamp US. I'm pretty excited about it. It's gonna be my first WordCamp. In the last one I went to was in 2019, like a in-person one.
Whoa.
Yeah, you gonna be there?
As soon as I get that flight booked, I am. I have my ticket. I have my ticket. I'm
Yeah,
going to go.
yeah,
Yeah. It's very hard to get from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast like
it
early enough
is.
in the day. Like I have to leave like a week before. It's like a ridiculous thing just to like get there, get to sleep or whatever. Not a week before, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
I got to figure out the flights.
No, I
But
found it
yes.
to be the same situation. So this year, WordCamp US is in DC, and there's two airports that are nearby. One is 40 minutes away from the venue, and one is like only 15 minutes away. And I tried to get both of my outgoing and like incoming flights to that closer airport, and I could not get the times to work. So I'm even going on a red eye. And so the red eye is going to get me there to the closer airport, but I couldn't find a reasonable flight, like cost and timing wise, that would help, that will let me go from that same airport. So I have to fly out from that 40 minutes away airport. And I'll be going international because I'm in Canada, which means like having to get there early. And so, 40 minutes plus 3 hours. I mean, that's a long time to like account for. And kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And I am very excited. There's so many people that I want to see again. And also because of the relationships and friendships we've been making during the course of this podcast season, I want to see those people too. And hopefully some of them are going to be there. I think it'll be really cool. Maybe we'll do like a podcast meetup or something. I don't know.
Ooh, that would be fun. We definitely have to do something because
Yeah.
the last one I went to was WordCamp Phoenix earlier this year, which was great, but it was also very small. And I went to WordCamp
Hmm.
US last year, which was great because it was very local and but also very
Hmm.
small, relatively speaking. And
Mm.
so I'm excited
It's big
to.
this year.
I know I'm excited for like a big. I'm hoping. I know they're looking for extra sponsors so they can do another batch of tickets. I'm really hoping that
Yeah.
comes through. I would love to see. It sounds like it's going to be a big one. So
Yeah, they already
I'm
have
excited.
2,000 tickets sold. I mean, that's awesome and wild. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think it'll be cool. But yeah, I think the last other thing that we want to do during the season break is, I guess, the cliffhanger that we've been hinting at this whole episode is you and I have been kind of working on this big project that we're really excited about, right? And we want to release it. We
Yeah.
want to make that
It's
happen.
Yeah, it's going to be completely open source, but we're just both we just have to get it perfect. So it's a project we're working on and we're testing and testing and using and using and so I'm very excited
Yes,
to do
we're
that and I
very
think
close.
yeah, I think not having a break from this podcast we will give us that just extra breathing room and like mental space to do things like just get some good documentation and all that sort of all those things you
Hmm.
need for a big project release. So I'm
Yeah,
excited. I really
I'm.
hope it's released before season 2 so that it can be a topic.
It has to be released before then for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, that's
um,
true.
yeah, but yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. I think we wanted to release 3 months ago, and then it couldn't happen 3 months ago, and it's a good thing, but also, yeah, you're right. We both are maybe a little perfectionist-y. So there's just certain things we're just like, no, there's no way we could release anything without this one thing. Oh my god, that's not possible. And then we're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, now this is gonna take another 2 weeks to actually do right.
Yeah, you're probably worse than me cuz I'm like, just release it, but there's yeah, there's like It's like 99% done, but there's some technical stuff that you're solving, and then there's a lot of like training documentation stuff that I'm solving. And once we have all of that, then we can feel confident. And I'm so excited to, because there's some people in the community that I know you and I look up to, and we're ready to be like, hey, can you give us
Tell
your
us what you
feedback?
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think with that cliffhanger and hopefully release that'll come during this break, I think that brings us to the end of season 1 of viewSource. Ta-da!
Woo.
So, I mean, I'm not going to say see ya because I'm going to still see you during this season break and we'll keep talking. But to everyone listening, please hang out with us on Twitter, on the socials, and email or anything. And we'll be back with the podcast in the fall. And maybe we'll see you at WordCamp US. That would be so cool.
Yeah. Let us know. Comment, should we have a short viewSource meetup or something while we're all in the same place? That would be
Let
super
us
fun.
know. All right. So till season 2 then, Ryan.
All right. See you then. Visit viewsource.fm for the latest updates and links to the show notes. Review and subscribe to viewSource in iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.